Welcome back to the show, The Unbroken. I am your host, Sam Davis. Always good to be here. This episode is brought to you by Burning Tree Recovery Ranch out of Kaufman, Texas. It is the only true, authentic, progress-based inpatient program in the country for the reluctant to recover. My guest today, Colleen Quinn. Colleen, I am delighted to have you here today.
Sam, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and you came up from Florida.
I did.
Right? Thank you for that. It's a little chilly here, a little brisk. Certainly when you walk outside, you know you're not in Florida. But again, thanks for coming up.
It's a nice change of pace.
Yeah. So how'd you get here?
Well, I think it's important to talk about the fact that I'm in long-term recovery. And it also took me a long time to get to long-term recovery. So my path into recovery was a long and bumpy road. I will say that I went to my first treatment center at 21. At that time, there was a lot of pain, shame, and secrecy. My father is in recovery, so there was a piece that looked like genetic family history stuff. Something else that I had in my head was that if I admit it, I'm going to have to make lasting change. So I went to my first treatment center trying to do it without anyone knowing. I waited till my parents went out of town, and I had my boyfriend at the time, who had been into a treatment center himself, kind of show me the way. How do I get into treatment? Because I was going to go in there and test it out and see if this was like...
While the folks were out of town.
Yeah.
You know, you're kind of in a bad way because usually when the folks go out of town, it's like, all right, what can I get away with? You're like, hey, how can I go on and get into rehab?
And I was absolutely in need of it. I was a daily drinker by 17. And by this time, I had had the college experience and sprinkled in some other things along with the drinking. My poison of no choice is alcohol.
I love that. I love that. That's the no choice.
I have no choice. I have no choice if I'm going to put it in my body or not, because the behavior had become so habituated that I had to drink, right?
Yeah.
It was in my blood all the time. I would go through these periods of desperately trying to not drink for hours or days, or just let me buy myself a little bit of time to sober up. But I could not do it. It was such a daily habit that I would wake up in the middle of the night and needing a drink. I would drink during working hours. It was to the point by age 21 that I needed to do something different.
Let me ask you, I'm gonna take a wild guess here. What was your flavor? I'm just gonna guess by that point, like box wine.
Oh no.
No box wine?
No.
What was
Too much sugar in the box wine.
Oh yeah. I mean, you gotta think about our health, you know?
Yeah. Well, no, it's the hangover.
Oh.
I couldn't drink if I was that hungover.
Oh.
Yeah. So vodka.
Vodka.
Yeah.
Not top shelf vodka.
I was a middle shelf vodka.
Right. You weren't the bottom Bowman's down there.
I was in a plastic bottle. No.
Right.
And I'd manipulate my friends into getting it. I remember we were college age, right? So I remember going halves on a bottle with my girlfriend. And we were starting Stoli Raz. That was our drink. Stoli raspberry flavored. We were splitting this bottle. We split it financially. But once we started drinking, I look at her and I was dead serious. And I said, it takes more for me to get drunk than you. I get the rest.
I'm sure she loved that.
And no.
Yeah.
I was mean at that point, right?
Selfish, self-centered.
Absolutely. And fear, because at that point, it looked like I wasn't going to have enough. And the thought of running out was so daunting that it ruined my relationships. And that was early in my drinking.
Well, certainly you didn't set off to want to be a mid-shelf vodka alcoholic, right, that early. When you were little, that's not what you desired to be. What did you want to be when you were little? I mean, anything come to mind? I mean, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I don't know exactly what I wanted to be when I was little, but I was an active swimmer. I was into snowboarding. I went to school for interior design. I loved film and radio, so I had dreams. I don't know that I had one in particular lined out, but I had a future planned that did not involve alcoholism.
Right. So how many treatment centers did you finally end up going to before you made it through the door of Burning Tree?
I can talk about a few significant ones. There were a few short-term treatment centers in the beginning, the 30 days. And then I went to the Cleveland Clinic, and they told my father in my early 20s that if I didn't go to a long-term treatment, that I wasn't going to have much of a life. So in 2003, I went to a year-long program, and I had some success. Except my discharge plan was not with a support system that was well set up. And I was very young, and I went over to Delray Beach. And I put together some time. But then the brain started working on me. I think something very characteristic of alcoholism is always this desire to want more and bigger and this and that. And I don't have this and I don't have that. So I had I would call it middle-of-the-road sobriety. I don't think that I've had a complete transformation. I had some things in order, but other areas where I was still very selfish, very self-indulgent. I didn't have the executive functioning or the habituation of creating a life that was sustainable. I was kind of holding on, and it looked like the next job, the next boyfriend. I was always looking for more. I was never satisfied at that point.
Yeah.
Although I'll call it white-knuckle sobriety. So I had some white-knuckle sobriety for a while, followed by yet another horrific relapse and another 10 years of use, where I went to program after program. I went to indigent programs. I went a variety of places just trying to stay alive. And I'd go into some with high resolve and a belief that I could get well, and I'd go into some just for a break.
Yeah. Just to cool the heels a little bit.
Yes.
So you ended up in Burning Tree. Did you want to go to Burning Tree when you went?
So let me say this. So my father got sober when I was drinking. And I saw a profound change in him. And so somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew that recovery was possible. I just didn't know how I was going to get there. So I ended up back in Cleveland, Ohio in 2016, maybe early 2017. And I found a woman at a halfway house, this halfway house owner who knew of Burning Tree. I was working for a car dealership as the technology specialist, and my shift was 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And all of a sudden, the thought crossed my mind that right down the road is Chick-fil-A and my bank and the liquor store. So I started drinking at my lunch hour, which was like 4 p.m. So I'd go to Chick-fil-A, get a lemonade, and then the next day I went to the liquor store and then the Chick-fil-A and put the vodka in that lemonade.
Right.
And I started drinking at work, living in a halfway house. And one day I drank too much, and I went to the local motel, and I called my halfway house manager and got honest. And I said, hey, I've done it again, and I need help.
That's a heavy phone.
Heavy. But there was a desperation to me at that point, too, you know? And I'll also say this, Sam. Earlier on, I would be driving to a liquor store, and I don't know how much of a drinker you were, but I had that kind of dry heaves before I could drink. Like I was physically sick. I'd be dry heaving on the way to the liquor store, needing that drink so bad. And I'd get to the liquor store, have that drink, and I'd feel okay, right? Like I was so physically dependent on that liquor. I would start to drive to that liquor store with those dry heaves and make a reservation at Detox. And I remember having a few days or weeks of sobriety, driving to the liquor store, calling Detox and saying, like with tears in my eyes, I need a bed tomorrow. I need a bed the next day. When can you get me in? Because I knew the second I started drinking, I could not stop myself. Something had to stop me. So I started making appointments at Detox to stop me. But back to when I called from that motel room, it was the exact same situation. I know I am so crushed by alcoholism that I have to ask for help to stop. And so when I called that halfway house manager and she said this one thing that sounds very much like Burning Tree now that I've had the experience. She said, Colleen, if I help you, you don't get to decide what that help looks like. And I said, yes.
Because you're insane.
Absolutely.
You're the last one to be calling the shots and where you went to treatment and what you did.
I didn't even know it was treatment.
A lot of families don't understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. The addicted brain makes poor decisions no matter what, because I will do whatever to preserve the ability to drink.
Yeah.
Right? Rational thinking is out. So this would be a moment of clarity where I asked for help.
Yeah. And a moment of clarity where you said, okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. So this lady was well educated in addiction and had resources and had a network. And she had known somebody who went to Burning Tree and knew it was the place that could help me. And I am forever grateful.
Hell yeah. Hats off to her, man. Because, look, a lot of sober livings around here, when they relapse in a sober living, they just send them to another sober living. I'm like, dude, he's giving you an experience that shows that he needs a higher level of care, and you're going to bounce him to another sober living? What the hell? Thank God for that lady.
And she's
Thank
amazing.
God for that.
Yeah. She understood the disease.
Yeah.
And so they were immediately on the phone with Burning Tree, and she was to me within an hour, maybe, and she took me straight to the airport, and I was on a plane.
Quick.
And my journey started there.
Yeah.
And when I kind of came to, I was scared, right? Because again, the addiction in my brain, it's like, how do I get the next one? Where's it coming from? What am I going to do? How do I escape this detox? How do I get out, right?
Right.
Because my brain only knows more. Got to get more. And I fought that phenomenon for weeks and months, well into my stay at Burning Tree, right? Burning Tree is probably one of the hardest things that I've ever done, Sam.
I would agree.
Because I'm up against me, right? How do I use this brain to fix this brain, right? It's a weird concept. But what I had to learn, or what was pivotal for me there, is understanding that it's my decisions who got me to this point, right? And there's like Colleen, my soul and my spirit, and then there's Colleen marinating in vodka. And the Colleen marinated in vodka was driving my bus for a long time. And this is why I think it is so hard for families to differentiate between what their loved one is saying when they have substance use disorder and when they're sober, right?
Yeah.
Mom and dad want to talk to their 14 or 15-year-old kid, and the 20-year-old version looks just like them.
Yeah. In your experience, what causes relapse or recycling through programs? What is it?
So I think some of the things I described, right? So if we look at how substances hijack the brain, we are looking at a significant amount of time for that fog to clear and the brain to have the ability to start to heal. So time is such an important factor. If we look at acute detox, right? We're looking at 1, maybe even 2 weeks.
At the most, 2 weeks.
Yeah. Then we look at, the next little portion of that brain healing. It can take like up to 60 days to even start to get some of this fog cleared. And in a traditional 30-day treatment center, they're already out, right? A 30-day program is kind of triage. So we are just removing the substance, and then where we can start the real work is probably beginning at that 3-week mark and then on, right? It takes the brain a long time to heal or be in a position to learn new things. The neural pathways are so driven to go back to homeostasis, which is to use that substance again. So it takes a lot of work to do something different and repeated change behavior. I have to practice again and again. When I have an uncomfortable feeling, what are other skills that I can use besides taking a shot?
Yeah.
Or acting out in anger or fear or flipping tables or running away from the problem or blaming somebody. I need to learn a ton of new skills to sustain recovery.
Yeah, and that takes time. What are the key ingredients that allow someone to finally surrender to the process?
There are so many factors.
It really is.
There
Families
are
are looking for this one thing, like, what is this thing that I can do? But it's...
I think that you have to take a significant beating, right? You have to have the experience of seeing that your return to use, despite not wanting to, is beyond your control. So I have to be convinced that I'm going to go back to the bottle and I can't stop myself from doing it. I think a significant part of recovery is having a support system. And I'm not talking about just a clinician or a program. It's like-minded peers who are on the same journey that I'm on. I need a sponsor and a road dog, right?
Right.
So not only do I need the education and the solid guiding force, but I need some people on this path with me. Having some friends and supports and a clinician who's willing to sit with me through some hard feelings.
And help you process.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people... I know I did this, and I know I can't speak for everyone, but I've seen it so much, is people look to a clinician as like a teacher to teach you how to stay sober, to teach you this, or to educate you in that. It's really not. They're there to help you process an experience.
Yeah.
And it takes a good clinician to do that.
It does. And there's a lot that we go through, and something that was so unique about my experience at Burning Tree, I went in there with some fixed ideas of how people had treated me, how things were, and how the world was. I was so closed-minded and fixated on these are facts. And over time, I started to have a little shift in perspective, and it shifted a little more, and it shifted a little more. And where I came in as somebody who was a blamer, I learned through my journey that wait, if I start to take responsibility for some of this stuff, and then I have the ability to change how I show up in these relationships, I might be able to change outcomes.
Yeah.
Right? So I learned that if I was constantly a victim of the world and everyone was doing it to me, I would remain in this vulnerable position. But if I could start to make choices that I was in charge of, I could start to kind of weave how my life was going to look. Just because somebody said something that hurt my feelings didn't mean I had to take it personally.
Right.
Just because there was a decision made that I didn't like doesn't mean that it's about me.
Yeah.
It's just happening.
Because before that, everything was about me. Everything.
Absolutely.
The whole world. It's all about me.
Absolutely. They were doing it to me.
Yeah.
I'd start to have this stuff that I didn't know was hope.
Yes. You know, something that was really powerful for me was that, from a tight family, all grew up in the same street, same road, same country road. And I was always around during the holidays. Sometimes I was, well, not sometimes, yeah. I mean, this is my perception, is I tended to ease up a little bit through the holidays. I didn't go, balls to the wall during the holidays, and holidays were important to me, to be around family and all, even in the throes of my addiction. So I found myself in Burning Tree come my first holiday away from home, and it was Thanksgiving. And I was all up in my head, all up, oh my God, I'm going to be here during Christmas, and just woe is me. And we went to feed the homeless on Thanksgiving. And that was, even to this day, the most rewarding Thanksgiving I've ever had, of getting out of myself, going and being of service, getting out of my head, and talking to others who have it a whole lot worse than I did. It was just one of the most rewarding experiences. How'd you do with the holidays at Burning Tree? How were you? I mean, it's not easy.
Well, listening to you, I had a lot of thoughts going through my head. I have spent almost 3 full calendar years in a treatment center. I have been in Detox on a Christmas Eve. And while family is very important to me, I had already messed it up other times. And the holidays at Burning Tree for me were different because my parents knew I was safe. And And so that was a way that I could give them a gift that was intangible, but also brought them peace.
Yeah.
You know, I have a brother who has been greatly affected by my parents giving their time, worry, and attention to my alcoholism. So it's those subtle gifts or the non-tangible gifts that I was still able to participate in my family in a different way, just by giving them the ability to have their peace and joy during the holiday season.
Yeah. I mean, I would somewhat level off a little bit during the holidays, but I distinctly remember just about every year I'd buy presents for the family. Then I go return them, smoke the money up, get some more presents, return them, smoke the money up before Christmas came. And then, like, I think my wife one year got a hamburger masher, like a patty maker, like from the hardware store.
Yeah.
You know, that was it. She was not happy about that. So, I mean, yeah, you're right. You know, of giving my family that gift of just like they knew that I was safe. Left to our own devices, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't have stayed at Burning Tree. If it was up to me, I wouldn't have. That's just me.
No. And I'll tell you a story about that. But what first came up for me when you were saying that you were trying to smoke crack light before the holidays, I was like, oh, that's really smart. Because we tend to see that's when kids get found out, or people in general, because they have to show up to the family function, or they believe they have to show up to the family function. And that's when we start to see, oh my, they're really not doing okay.
Yeah, where did all your Christmas gifts go? Or, you know, like, coming in from fall break from college.
Yes.
Like this first semester or the second semester coming in. And you're like 20 pounds less than you were. Or 30 pounds
I'm an
less
alcoholic.
than you were.
I was
Looking
heavier.
crazy. Yeah, looking crazy.
Yeah.
All red in the face.
Oh, yeah.
You know? They're like, something isn't right here.
Yeah.
Something isn't right. Yeah, and you passed out in the soup and all at the holiday meal.
Oh, Thanksgiving, it's like, try your best to really hold it together. And then by Christmas, you're like, oh, no, they know.
Yeah.
Should I even go home for Christmas?
So talking about the families and moving along here, what does real internal change look like? Not just compliance, but transformation. Like for a family that's watching this, what does it look like?
So it's this shift in change from thinking about themselves all the time to starting to remember about what's going on with other people.
Yeah.
This desire to be helpful and participate and ask about others besides themselves.
Yeah.
Also, I think that it's a good indicator when they are an active participant in their support group, whether that's AA or whatever meeting they choose to attend, but connection and excitement about being a part of something positive.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like there's this shift of we lean more on, and it's not immediate, but it's a shift where we begin to lean more on the idea of going and filling the world a little more than expecting the world to fill us.
Absolutely.
So I've been doing this a while. I still want the world to fill me, you know, to a certain degree. So I'm never absent of that, but it's a little more we're looking to fill the world.
Selfless.
Selfless.
Right? I think about myself less.
Yeah. Colleen, thank you for coming in today, all the way from sunny Florida, and being a part of this and sitting down and talking to us about your journey, Burning Tree, and how you're helping families and some of the family stuff that's going on, and sobriety and transformation. There's a wealth of information. Would you be willing to come back and see us sometime?
Sam, I would love to come back and visit with you.
Well, we'd love to have you.
And I want to thank you as well. You continue to be a resource for families in our community. And I do point people to your podcast to help them. And you have continued to show up and be an amazing support.
I certainly do appreciate that. It's a huge honor to go from smoking crack and waking up in a tobacco field naked with your underwear on the dashboard of a truck, not knowing how in the world that got there, and chasing people with chainsaws, to actually being able to come in and say something that someone may want to hear and could be helpful to. So it blows my mind that I actually get to do this and be around here and be around people like you. And so
it's really cool, huh?
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I'm glad I glad I changed my life.
Yeah, I'm grateful for my recovery as well.
Yeah, yeah. So till next time, Colleen, thank you. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you all for being a part of the show tonight. And we're going to see you next time. Again, this episode was brought to you by Burning Tree Recovery Ranch, the authentic, truly long-term, progress-based treatment program, inpatient for the reluctant to recover, for your loved one that you just see absolutely zero hope in them ever getting well. Check out Burning Tree. That's it for us. We're out.